Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about one big rule that I try to follow to help me budget when buying sports cards. Stick with me. I'll be right back. Hello to all my sports card collectors, investors, all of the collectibles friends out there in the universe. I hope that you're doing really good. We have made it to Friday. Thank goodness it is Friday. We have made it to the weekend. Do you have any big weekend plans? Honestly, guys, I'm probably just going to do like community pool with the kids. Kind of lay low and recharge the batteries a little bit. I hope that everyone's having a good summer, not too hot out there. It's really blazing here in North Carolina. So we'll probably get out, do some pool stuff, get outside a little bit, but then, probably hang out inside quite a bit too. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button, karate chop the notification bell, as my son and daughter like to say. And how about a like if you like what you hear? Would really appreciate it. We come out with almost daily content, mostly about collectibles and sports cards and so forth. And we're really happy to have you. Thanks again for stopping by. All right, guys, at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about one big thing that I try to do to help me when I'm budgeting, trying to help me when buying sports cards. Because I think that when, we talk about budget, it's different for everybody. Everyone's got their own budget, and we're going to dig into this subject. I think it's a good one. I think the biggest thing right out of the gate is be honest with yourself about your disposable income. What I mean by that is everyone's got kind of fixed bills that you've got, and then you also have variable costs. Entertainment is always one of those buckets where it's like, I feel like with my family, we always put down a dollar amount for entertainment. But it's like you really have to watch that because all of a sudden entertainment costs can go up. And I kind of, sports cards, collectibles, they can kind of fall into that entertainment bucket depending on how you hobby, depending on how you're operating in the hobby. So I think being really honest about that part is critical because it's important to not stretch. Opportunity cost is key. I don't hear it talked about a lot, but it is something that's interesting for me to pay attention to as well. And it's something that I have to catch because not only do we have opportunity cost in the hobby, meaning that when you buy one card, it takes away the ability to buy another card. That's a very real thing, especially with all the inventory. For me, if you're like me, I like modern cards, ultra modern cards, there's vintage stuff. I've got starting lineups. I've got other collectibles that I buy as well. So it's kind of like there's all these different directions to go in. And when I make a purchase, every dollar that goes to that thing is a dollar that could have gone to another thing that I also like. So I think that's a critical piece of really kind of figuring out a game plan as far as, how much do you want to put in each type of collectible? And if you're just into sports cards, that's fine. But how are you going to segment that out as far as vintage cards or modern cards? Are they short term? Are they long term holds? Are they medium term holds? What is your plan there? And that can be really tricky. It's easier said than done. And also I think it's critical to be adaptable too. You might have a plan going in January 1st, 2021, and then July 15th or whatever, 16th, it's a totally different plan. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that sometimes being adaptable is really important. Another form of opportunity cost is every dollar that goes to sports cards can also be going to paying off a debt, whether it be credit card debts or car loans or mortgage, rent, whatever those debts are. On the flip side of that, it could also be going to retirement, could also be going to your 401k, your IRA, whatever it might be. So, every single dollar that goes anywhere, I think this is kind of a lesson just in general, whether you're putting money in anything is, I always try to think too, it's like, do I need new clothes? Do I need this? Do I need that? And a lot of that is because that's money that could go into these other things that I would rather put money into. And so that's something that I feel like I'm always having to think about and kind of like reassess. That's a nonstop thing. So I don't think that that's really a bad thing. If you feel like you're questioning where your money is going, you're outward, that's really good. It's good to question how your money is leaving you and going out into the universe. It's good to question that and good to always kind of reassess as needed. Something that I learned early on when I was getting back into the hobby, and it's really no different than when I was collecting as a kid back in the late 80s, early 90s. There's some small differences, but one big one is that I'm never going to be the biggest collector on the block, probably in my own neighborhood, let alone like in the world. So, and social media magnifies this, whether you're on, an Instagram or you're on Twitter or whatever, there's some big cards that are being shown, on these channels. And, it's difficult sometimes. It's like, man, I would love to have that card. And then you get into you have to be careful not to keep up with, try to keep up with the Joneses, as they say. And that's in life. That's not just in sports cards. That could be with buying cars, buying houses, whatever it is. But you see it with sports cards too. There's people that are always kind of chasing. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But the reason why I say that is it hasn't changed from the late 80s is there was always people that had larger collections than me, better cards than me. And I just accepted the fact that I was going to have, the smaller type stuff. I was not going to have a Michael Jordan rookie card in 1990. It just wasn't going to happen. It's not happening now, let alone back then, so I think it's a critical component. The other thing that's very interesting, if I compare just the time periods, the access to credit back in the late 80s, early 90s compared to what it is today is monumentally different. People didn't put a lot of stuff on credit cards in the 80s. It wasn't as easily accessible. When my parents bought their first house in 1981, the mortgage rate on their house was 17% in 1981. Let me say that again. The mortgage rate on their house on their 30-year mortgage was 17%. Today, it's what, 2.5%, 3% for a 30-year mortgage fixed? 17, 18% in 1981. That's how high rates were. It's wild to think about. We're living in a totally different world now, but the fact that, there's such easy access to easy credit, but it's high interest credit. A lot of it is. So, you'd get that credit card and you can very easily get behind. You can kind of challenges from today versus back then. Those weren't necessarily the same sorts of challenges that my parents had. Not that they were not that they were going to spend credit card money on cards, but they could have very easily spent it on other things that they were interested in. And that's kind of the trap that we're in today's environment. Really, it's so easy to just put it on a credit card that it's something that everyone has to keep an eye out for, including myself. A lot of finance channels talk about a minimalist approach, but if you think about it, it's difficult to do. It takes a lot more mental fortitude than maybe it used to, 30 years ago when we didn't have access to an easy car payment, an easy credit card. You can go to a car dealership. Just about anybody can get a car on credit. That's wild. Something that we have to keep an eye out for. The one big thing is, FOMO. It's chasing those prices. We've talked about it. I've talked about it on this channel since I started the channel, is be really careful chasing prices. When prices are moving upward, and that's what we've seen over the last, 2 years in sports cards, not just sports cards, but a lot of things, a lot of collectibles markets, as well as, housing. And there's a lot of things that are frankly just inflated right now. And we're chasing. A lot of people are chasing. I've chased at certain points as well. And I think that we have to remember that there is a boatload of sports card and collectibles inventory out there. So it might be like, oh man, this is really rare. There's a lot of rare cards. There's a lot of scarce cards out there. Now, look, if you're in the market for one of ones and you're in the market of numbered out of 10, then there's not a lot of those. There's not a lot of options to get them, but you're also operating at a much higher price point than the majority of people are. I'm certainly not operating in that market. The gold prisms and I'm not even operating in the silver prism market, let alone the gold prism market. So I think it's also just recognizing that we don't have to be the biggest fish. We don't have to just chase, just be patient and just enjoy what you can afford to collect. That's the big thing. Enjoy what you can afford to collect. The one thing that I do, the one kind of takeaway that I hope to maybe help some people, and I do this in life, not just in sports cards, but buying anything, I do this in my head. Now, look, there's been instances where, it has been something that's fairly scarce. I don't see it up for sale, so I'm not able to do this, or I don't see it up for sale very often, so I don't have the opportunity to do this, and I've kind of, decided to buy without following this rule for myself. But for the most part, the rule that I have is to wait 24 hours before making a buying buying decision. So let me just kind of lay that out. So I see something that I like. I see something, maybe it's a buy it now, or maybe there's some time left on that auction. And I take 24 hours before I make any sort of a bid or a decision on that particular card. And a lot of times what will happen is I'm really into a card or collectible, and then I'll see something else, and then I'll see something else, and then I'll see something else. And then I'm questioning, do I need this? What is the population again? Will I see these again? How many have sold in the last 90 days on eBay? And then you start to kind of question, but that's a good thing because it stops me from making impulse buys. It stops me from jumping on an impulse auction. It stops me from really kind of being hasty making those decisions. And just know, like we say, unless you're collecting one player with one certain set and extremely rare stuff, if you're collecting baseball or you're collecting football in general and you've got a lot of different things you collect, there will be other cards for you out there. There will be that inventory will be there. And a lot of times that same card might be there at a lower price down the road. So I think patience is really key, but especially for those that are collecting a variety of players, a variety of sports, you've got time. Those cards will be there. Those cards will be there. And like I said, outside of one-of-ones and really rare stuff, those cards will be there. So I hope that this was helpful. I know this is kind of more of a general take of just kind of a couple of things that I try to do and try to remember when buying sports cards, but I think it's really, really important. Don't worry about trying to keep up with anybody. It only really matters what you like and what you collect, and that's it. And kind of furthermore on that, it kind of goes back to not caring what other people think. It really is freeing not caring what other people think. Now, look, I've got a YouTube channel. I've got people that come in the comments and sometimes they make mean comments at me or whatever. I hear things that are said about me. And does it affect me for a minute? Yeah, sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But in reality, it's short-lived. I move on quickly. I try to have like the quarterback mentality of, next play. Forget that last play, on to the next play. And it really helps. So try to care less. If you are one of those people that's maybe trying to, chase a collection for other people's opinions, for other people to really, I really like that card or whatever, don't bother. You'll be a lot happier just collecting what you like, and that's it. Don't worry about what other people think in life. That's honestly, it's taken me a long time to get to that point. I'm 40 now, so it's taken me a long time to reach the point where I could just care less. But once you reach that point, it is really, really freeing. It's very, very helpful. So guys, have an amazing Friday. Have an awesome weekend. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will see you again next time. Take care.